The voice of sharing, 旅人那乡。
ASEAN Breakfast Call. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hello and welcome to Duran ASEAN. This is Gowri.
Good morning and welcome back again. This is Grace.
And it's a Friday morning and it's a little chaotic today in the studio.
Yes, here. I don't understand why Gauri has been going through here and there. I don't know what's in your mind, Gauri. Well, are you just too excited because today is Friday?
I guess it's Friday and also because I haven't had my morning coffee, so I'm gonna blame my coffee for this one.
Oh, don't blame on the coffee, please. I'm having one for myself. Well, Gauri and our listeners out there, I just want to update what happened in South Korea yesterday. It was really, really huge, big day yesterday.
What happened?
What happened was nothing bad happened, but then yesterday was the day for all those high school students to have entrance exam to universities in Korea. So all the students who are about 18 and 19-year-old, they have to sit for an exam, and it's one of the biggest day. All the policemen will be out there, all the safeguards will out there in case of accidents and then incidents happen in Korea.
Right, but so every student in Korea sits for the entrance exam on the same day.
Yes, so the whole school will be closed for the exam, and the parents are ready to send their children in a good conditions and then pack their lunch. So what happened yesterday was I read one article about this lady. She is the mom of this student who had to send her to to entrance to the university, and then she forgot to pack her lunch. And then she just sent her first in the morning, and she was like, "Oh my God, my daughter will be starving for, during lunchtime." So she just had to quickly get the takeout from this sushi shop. So she was just crossing the road. She got hit by the car. But then the car owner, he was like, "Madam, you really need to go to hospital." But she insists to deliver the sushi first. Only after that she went to hospital.
Is that a very is a culture that you have to follow when your kids go to school? You just have to give them lunch.
Yes.
It's necessary.
A sort of our culture. It is necessary because we believe that having lunch and then the breakfast are really important. And also our brain will function better with having proper meals.
That's very interesting. Maybe if my mom did that, then my focus wouldn't be all over the place this morning.
Well, you've been doing well, but then not this morning, Gauri.
Not today. Today's not my day. But anyway, let's move on to Malaysia.
Yep.
We have a news from Putrajaya where Jakim confirms that Putrajaya is planning for a Sharia court equivalent to our federal court. And according to the Malaysian Islamic Development Department, the current three-tier Sharia judiciary system will be upgraded to a five-tier system with the highest court being the Sharia Appeal Council.
Wow. And also regarding the suggestion to create the Sharia Appeal Council, the government is doing an in-depth study. So the effort is consistent with jurisdictions of federal and the state government as enshrined in the federal constitution.
And this will definitely change the way everything works in our country, because to change the whole judiciary system, because everyone is used to what we have right now, and even that people are still not familiar with it. If you ask them what's the lowest court, what's the court in the middle, what's the highest court, people are still confused. And now that's going to be upgraded to a 5-court system. And it's also going to according to the council, Othman also said that they are upgrading the position of Sharia courts and judges in Malaysia. That was their initial plan. So it's also a move to kind of remind people that this is still an Islamic country, and at the end of the day, that it's what will prevail.
And also, in addition to that, the paper was presented in detail to each of the 14 state religious councils. And the ministers in the charge of religious affairs, Datuk Seri Jamil Baharom, said The government is waiting for the Malay rulers to consent to set up two more Sharia courts to give them the same powers as the civil federal court.
And for this court, actually, it's very difficult if you want to look at Muslims and non-Muslims, because Sharia court is, of course, it caters to mostly to Muslims only, and for this to happen, actually, it is probably in contrast with our constitution, because eventually what is high up there is the civil court, and we have the high court as well. But for the Sharia court to replace that, may not be able to be executed in a systematic way.
Well, also, as long as the civil courts and then the constitution, they hold the supreme, they can do what they want to do in the country. And this is sort of the game changer just to Malaysia by announcing this news to people.
And currently, the Sharia courts are set up under the state laws, where the civil courts, which is the High Court, Court of Appeal, and Federal Court, are all established under the federal constitution. But the Court of Appeal released last Tuesday, saying that these Islamic laws, of course, cannot violate Malaysia's fundamental freedoms that are protected within the federal constitution. So it's good that they are also taking that into consideration to make sure that although the Sharia court will be placed on top, it still cannot violate the rights of non-Muslims in this country, because it's protected by the constitution.
And also, some people may say for this to happen, the federal constitution must be amended, that the all stakeholders be consulted and that their views taken before any moves is made. But then for this, the just Sharia court to be placed on top, there is a need for 2/3 majority to vote in favor. And how about the Muslims that you mentioned? Just they may be afraid of this move, and then their elected representatives must represent their views as well.
And Malaysia practices a dual-track legal system where we have the secular civil courts, like I mentioned just now, and they also have a Sharia version that only binds and acknowledges Muslims. So now it's becoming more of an integrated thing, and we are going to resort to a 5-tier system. So let's see how that one turns out.
But then when it comes to law and policy or regulations in one nation, it's all matters how they execute the plan and also the agreement, all the papers they have signed. So it just takes a time, and then the people just have to see what will happen to them.
And we are moving on to what's happening in Myanmar. Actually, this is also in line with the ASEAN summit that happened. And Obama, as we all know, has been pressing for a democratic process in Myanmar. And he has been pushing for democracy to happen, especially in the elections 2015. And another person who has also spoken up against this matter is, of course, the Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, where he actually stepped in and also requested for the Myanmar government to do something about the Rohingya people, to look into that matter, because if Myanmar really wants to go for a reform, especially their awaited elections 2015, they have to address this issue.
Well, he did, and then many other authorities, they've brought up these issues to announce about it. But here the main issue is about him, Ban Ki-moon, using overusage of Rohingya, the term itself. Because the Rohingya is not recognized in the country itself, in Myanmar, and then they are referred to as Bangla.
Yes, Bengalis.
Bengalis, yes. So it's not acknowledged in the country itself, and then when a person like Ban Ki-moon uses overly of the terminology like that, people feel it's unnecessary.
But yes, they say it's unnecessary. They say it could lead to entrenched polarization. But isn't that already happening there? I mean, it's not like everything was calm and peaceful, and then Ban Ki-moon says something, and then there's a
he
huge
is
outrage.
Because he's a huge, public figure, and he represents some UN. So people will comment even more towards somebody who's in highly up there, and then somebody who are supposed to be looked up to, and then he uses the term itself over and over again. People will question.
And according to the state chief minister, he said that we've repeatedly explained that we're not happy with the use of the word Rohingya by the United Nations or any neighboring countries, including Bangladesh. And we duly understand the humanitarian issue that's facing this minority is facing, and we'll keep supporting them. But whenever the United Nations use the word Rohingya, we keep telling them that we do not accept it. But then if you look at it, the term Rohingya itself it's definitely fostered some distrust among the people. It led to the divide among the people. It segregates the entire community, the people in Myanmar. And then, of course, we also know that the government came up with this plan, a policy to call them Bengalis instead, which implies that they are actually illegal immigrants from Bangladesh. So in this case, from the way we see it, calling them Bengalis, the one that is more offensive or that would cause polarization or is unnecessary. It's not so much about them being Rohingya.
Exactly, and also Mr. Ban Ki-moon, he said that the government needed to ensure further protection for the Muslim minority group and or risk the reform process in stalling. So he was actually issuing out some important facts, but he wasn't really emphasizing on the terminology itself. Maybe it's just the usage of his terms over and over again while he was giving speech regarding these issues. And also, he added by saying that I encourage the leaders of Myanmar to uphold human rights, take a strong stance against incitement, and ensure that humanitarian access to Rohingya living in the vulnerable conditions. So he did bring out these issues, but since he is in a certain position in the UN, and then whatever he says, whatever he gives speech, people are sensitive, especially the media and also Myanmar people itself.
And of course, Barack Obama has also spoken out against this issue, and he said that he's quite positive actually about the democratization process in Myanmar. And he also mentioned that change is hard and it doesn't always move in a straight line, but right now, Myanmar is trying very hard to move from a military-ruled country to a democratic country. And he's been discussing with Thein Sein as well, and to see what are the issues that they can address, what are the days that they can move forward. And that was one of the outcome of the ASEAN summit that happened as well.
So what happened after he actually used the term repeatedly? What happened was in social media, as usual, or especially like Facebook, it's been like flooded with his images of Mr. Ban, and then with the image that also has a like huge red X sign on his face. So people actually shout out for him to leave the position because of the overly usage of Rohingya.
But those were the people in Myanmar or just people in general?
General.
And another country that's also facing human rights issue is still in Southeast Asia, and it's actually Vietnam, where their right groups slam Vietnam for obsolete rights report. And it seems that they have been delaying their human rights report, which they are supposed to submit, especially to UN, because they have an obligation to do it. And by delaying these reports, it's only backfiring on them because they are undermining all these opportunities to strengthen and to protect their citizens' economic, social, and cultural rights. And this was confirmed by the rights group in their report as presented in Geneva, Switzerland, just on Tuesday. And also to to further elaborate on that, Vietnam is also facing some huge battle against democracy. So it's not just Myanmar that's facing human rights problem and also the fight for democracy. It's also Vietnam that is kind of in the same boat. And just to go back a little bit into this human rights thing, it seems that Vietnam is ratified in the treaty under the September 1982, where they are obligated to submit reports to the committee on a regular basis, but they have failed to do so since 1993. So can you imagine? They have not been submitting their human rights reports since 1993, so no one really knows what's happening in Myanmar.
And also you talked about Gowri, you talked about the Vietnam just now.
Yes.
Vietnam is still dealing a lot of political issues, and they're under China government system that when it comes to human rights or economic or social, even cultural rights in Vietnam, it's still in the control. I mean under the control by Chinese government system. So,
And this Vietnam's 21-year delay in submitting the report and empty rhetoric also shows to the rest of the world when we look at how relaxed they are and how nonchalant they are about the human rights report. It gives us the impression that they are not really concerned about the people's economic well-being or their social well-being or even their rights, their human rights in that sense. And they have most of their victims of abuses when it comes to human rights are of course the vulnerable community. They have the women, the children, and a lot of ethnic minority communities that they have in the country. So UN is not happy with Vietnam delaying all these reports, and they want Vietnam to of course step up the game and start submitting. I mean, what's the big deal in that? Just let us know what's going on in your country.
and also when it comes to human rights in any countries, it's very important, and it has to be concerned because it's got to do with the citizen of the nation, and then people have their own right to become vocal about their opinions and then the freedom. But when those things are kept in the dark place, it's definitely will be become an issue.
So this new report by Geneva, Switzerland has asked for Vietnam to recognize the universality of human rights and also authorize the establishment of independent trade unions, ensure access to education, healthcare without discrimination, and end all forced evictions. We also know that Vietnam has a reputation to detain a lot of people who protest or a lot of activists, and these are also some of the issues that we're being asked to address. So Vietnam needs to step up.
Yeah, for
and,
sure.
recognize the rights of the people in its country and submit the report to United Nations because they are waiting for it. And another highlight actually that has happened is Malaysia has officially assumed the 2015 chairmanship.
Yes, that's correct. I mean, this handing over ceremony took place in Myanmar just a few days ago, and then all those leaders of member from different countries and then their spouse in attendance. The Myanmar President Thein Sein handed over the ceremonial chairman to Prime Minister Dr. Seri Najib Tun Razak to mark the handing of the chairmanship to Malaysia at the close of 25th ASEAN Summit there.
Right, and of course this is something that we were waiting for with so much anticipation because Malaysia is the chairman of the 2015 ASEAN, and it's finally happened, and of course it happened in the presence of all the leaders, and Najib delivered his speech, his acceptance speech, and also the logo for Malaysia's chairmanship was unveiled during his presentation. And apart from that, he talked a bit about what he has, his vision, his plan for Malaysia, which he described as united, stable, and prosperous. And
definitely, it shows a very positive moves and the plans towards this 2015 chairmanship of Malaysia. Well, everyone has this understanding of this idea of ASEAN Charter that came from Malaysia, although it was actually mentioned in the Vientiane Plan of Action in 2004. It was actually 2005, the next year, when Malaysia hosted the summit. That was a declaration of establish a summit and to appoint the eminent persons group to come out with a recommendation to the charter. And over the years, Malaysia had also played an important role in making the association as ASEAN 10, although during 1997 summit, which Malaysia hosted, it only managed to get ASEAN 9 due to the unfortunate turn of event. So now it has come to 25th one, and then Malaysia will become the chairmanship of this ASEAN in 2015. A lot of expectations are going on, and then like our Prime Minister has announced about his positive movement in towards the ASEAN, people are looking forward to look at the improvement.
And also there's definitely a lot of expectations when it comes to this, especially in terms of economy, because that is hard not to mention economy when it comes to countries, when it comes to coming together even as a community. So another thing that was highlighted was also, of course, the ASEAN Economic Community, which is all the rage right now. Everybody's talking about it. Even the Business Advisory Council is trying to do so much to increase the awareness on AEC, especially when it comes to little SMEs, so they can benefit from this. Because when it comes to ASEAN, on an ASEAN level, a lot of these SMEs or even other corporations may just brush it off. Oh, it's an ASEAN thing, it has nothing to do with me. But the truth is they can benefit from it in so many ways. And even the EU has actually come up with some plans. We know that Korea is also excited about the AEC.
Yes, of
so
course.
We have all these outside countries, outside blocks coming in, and they are also really pumped up, waiting to see AEC happen and see how they can contribute or benefit from it. And so it's time for Malaysians and also all the SMEs of other corporations all over Southeast Asia to wake up and see what AEC can do for them, learn about it, research about it, and see how it can benefit you, especially now that Malaysia is the 2015 chairman.
But in fact, did you know that in the past they actually talked about the non-interference between regions because they wanted to respect for their national identity, peaceful settlement. But then with the ASEAN coming along, and also after the Malaysian announced to become to position in the chairman of this, there like you mentioned in terms of economy. We also have free trade agreements between the countries that will benefit each other. That will definitely give more legal personality and expansion in terms of economy. And then, of course, with that, there will be obligations and the policies will be made between countries, but definitely they will build another bridge to build a relationship between countries, especially in ASEAN. Then ASEAN will continue to have this motive, one nation, one identity, and also one vision as well.
And just before we wrap things up for this morning, we are going to look at Europe for a bit, where their cycling economy has created 650,000 jobs. So this is what's really interesting about this is whenever we think about, as we were just talking, we're talking about economy, how to progress. We're talking about the AEC. We're talking about how a country can prosper, and we always have this mindset that it can only be done in the through trade or the conventional ways. But even when it comes to simple things like cycling, that can also boost your economy and come up with nearly 500,000 of jobs. And if you were to look at Malaysia especially, we have a lot of unemployment problem that's happening. Of course, I'm not suggesting that it can all be solved by cycling. But it's just a way of looking out of the box and looking for alternative ways, because cycling does not only, of course, in this case, it's created 500,000 jobs, but at the same time, there are so many other benefits. There are health benefits. There are lesser car on the road. There's
Lesser
less
traffic jam.
There's less pollution. It's beneficial in so many ways, actually, if you really
Well, it
think
can
about
give
it.
so many benefits to the nation, but at the same time, it's quite tricky because the nation has to look at its own infrastructure in the country. Depends whether we can actually maintain having, all those bicycles around. Because having this cycling economy, it will definitely include cycling production, tourism, retail, infrastructure, and services. But for those nations which already have good infrastructure systems, they can definitely maintain this cycling and then also boost up the economic. But for example, our nation's Malaysia, we are still lacking the infrastructure, and then people will question how safe it is to have this cycling system in Malaysia.
And of course, there's been a couple of initiatives actually where you cycle to work, and they have cycling days. They have places where you can rent your bicycle. So hopefully it picks up and becomes a thing in this country, because there are so many benefits that we can derive from it. And that's all the time that we have for this morning. We'll see you a bit later for our Blast from the Grassroots session.
And don't forget to download our TuneIn app and find us at Durian ASEAN.
We also have a Facebook page, a Twitter page. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. And this is Gowri.
And this is Grace.
We will see you later.